And I'll just do my reminders very quickly. Once again, welcome everybody to our quarterly webinar. We have a lot of great presenters for you today, a lot of great information. Just to say it again, if you are not presenting, just make sure you're muted with video off as it helps with sound quality. The recording will be on our YouTube channel later, along with a copy of the PowerPoint and any links that we happen to mention. Any questions, you can go ahead and type them in the chat box. And I think that's it. Gina, if you want to go ahead and start, please take it away.
You, Ariel. Hello, everybody. Welcome. It is February 2025. Thank you so much for joining us. This is our quarterly provider meeting. We are so happy to have some of our guest presenters here with us today, and of course, some updates from ELC staff. So thank you again for being here, and we will get started. I think I don't have a slide, but if we go to the next slide, I can just take a minute to sort of take a breath. I always get so excited for these and I end up like rambling like crazy. So take a breath to center myself if y'all want to take a breath and just make sure we're good to go, focused and here and ready to be present. We're going to be hearing from Heather and the ARC, Heather from VPK from DOE, and Home Safe and Teacher Created Materials and Palm Beach State College, and of course, some updates from us. So we'll get going because we are very full today. And to our next slide. And take it away, Heather.
Good morning, everyone. Heather Sargent, VPK Regional Facilitator from the Division of Early Learning. I wanted to share some resources with you all regarding transition to kindergarten. I know we're only in February, but soon spring break will be here and we will be starting to meet with families and talk about graduation and hopefully share transition to kindergarten resources. Next slide. So we have lots of information to share around the Florida Early Learning and Developmental Standards. I know that you all use these to guide your instruction and daily practices in your classroom, but I also wanted to ensure that we are sharing with families as you go in each of the areas of development. You will see those three columns, those educators may, children may, and families may section. These are a great way to share activities with families around the Florida Early Learning and Developmental Standards. And then we also linked in the transition to kindergarten resources for you all. The first one is the transition to kindergarten for families. And these have resources, they're on Padlets. That have English, Spanish, and Haitian Creole resources that you can use and customize for your program to share with families. So hopefully, as you're meeting with them in the coming months, we can do all that we can to help coordinate with our school districts and also just letting families know what they can do over the summer months to help prepare their children for kindergarten. Then there's also information for you as providers to share as well. So these two, again, are Padlets. They're downloadable information that can be shared. All of this comes from the Division of Early Learning. The next is the Parent Pages monthly newsletter. And this is a Division of Early Learning. It comes out from our CCR&R department. But these Parent Pages share lots of resources and information on helping parents prepare children, in addition to lots of different topics around development and learning and behaviors. And so this is a great one to find tips and tricks to possibly include in your monthly newsletters, share on your social media, and to share with families. Next slide. Building a Strong Foundations, this is a really great website for you to use internally as internal professional learning and development, and also there's lots of resources to share with families. This is helping understand the science behind how children learn to read, what we need to do to prepare children with those emergent literacy skills, creating routines to help children love to read. And so there's lots of different resources for families on the Building a Strong Foundation website. This website comes to us from the Florida Center for Reading Research and REL, which is a reading symposium that makes up of Florida. And then the last resource, many of you who've been around VPK for a while have probably seen different editions of this. What I learned in VPK Portfolio, this is a great guide for teachers it covers all areas of development, so all of our standards and domains. And it's basically a child portfolio that describes and has a list of all of the different benchmarks that children should know and be able to do at the end of VPK to be ready for kindergarten. Next slide. So here is a sample of what the transition to kindergarten child portfolio looks like. Next slide. The purpose of this portfolio, so you're going to see 3 different areas that you can check off as you're using this for children. Look what I learned, help me practice, and help me learn. Next slide. So this portfolio is for you to use as you see fit, a great way to share information with families and also keep internal documentation around the Florida Early Learning and Developmental Standards. Next slide. So here's an example of our physical development domain, and it gives a little brief explanation about the domain. So if you decide to pass this on at the end of the VPK year to families, they can have a better understanding of what each of the domains or areas of development are looking at and what they cover. Next slide. So here are those areas that we were mentioning that are covered on the standards website. Educators may, families may, and then there's also a section in there for you all to set up, children may. And so these are just observable skills that you can set up for children to master and practice this particular area. This is physical development. Next slide. And then here's a checklist or a list of the specific benchmarks under physical development. Health and well-being is the component, active physical play is the standard, and then the benchmarks are listed under there. So you can check off, look what I learned, help me practice, or help me learn. And you can date these as you go if you wanted to use this portfolio as an ongoing assessment or just a checklist in your VPK program. So this portfolio will be included, the link will be included in the PowerPoint presentation that goes out to you all. And there is one of these for every area of development. So the 8 domains from the Florida Early Learning and Developmental Standards. Next slide. Alrighty. I'll drop my email in the chat for anybody who needs to get a hold of me. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Heather. And we do have a rule workshop coming up too for VPK, right? So we had, I think, put some of that out. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's lots of rule workshops coming out from the Division of Early Learning covering both school readiness and VPK, but the big one for VPK is the provider on probation rule. That is coming out. So if you are interested in reading the draft rule language or participating in the rule development workshop, remembering the idea is that you read the draft rule language prior and you come and you have specific comments regarding the draft rule language. They are recorded and they take all of the input into account before they finalize the language, and it's expected to go to the State Board of Education in April for final approval.
I know that our communications team had sent out some information about that, but we'll include that also in our email from this presentation. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Heather. Nice to see you. And we'll move on to Alexis from the ARC. Hi, Alexis. Nice meeting you.
Hi, everybody. Nice meeting you all. I am Alexis Solis. I'm the Director for Early Intervention at the ARC of Palm Beach County. Some of you might be aware of what we do. You can go to the next slide. We envision a community where every person feels welcome, connected, and accepted. For the most part, the ARC has several programs that work with children and adults who have diagnosed disabilities. Next slide. We were established in 1958 by a group of parents and volunteers to help those families move along, a continuum of services through their lifetime. We have several programs from respite services, a charter school for non-ambulatory kids, to adult day training, several programs that really help facilitate anybody who
Oh, I think she froze. Give it a second.
Okay, I think you unfroze. You just froze for a second
Oh.
there.
Okay, thank you. I thought I was frozen. I'm not sure if you all heard, but you can go to the next slide. So my department works with children who have slight to mild developmental delays, meaning that they don't qualify for early steps or child find services, but there is some concern that a parent may have. And so we have 3 programs. I'm going to go over every program. I'm hoping that people can ask questions because you may have children in your child care centers that you maybe refer to Child Find, or you think that they need early steps, but maybe they don't qualify, but they still need some kind of support or service. So our programs do provide that. We focus from birth to 5 on meeting developmental milestones, getting children ready for school, and improving their health, development, and emotional wellness. Next slide. So our first program is Early Connections. Developmental specialists will come alongside a pediatric practitioner and basically ensure that the child is developing appropriately. So through their first 3 years of life, they provide several assessments during each well baby visit. You can go to the next slide. We are in 10 practices throughout the county, from Boynton to Jupiter to Pahokee. Next slide. And so essentially, while each parent has their well baby visits for their child, the developmental specialist will come in during that session, provide developmental support, and also conduct several different assessments at various intervals. So for instance, they may do an ASQ during that well baby visit. Maybe the next time they'll do an MCHAT, depending on their age, if they're 18 months or 24 months. So there are several assessments that we use in order to make sure that that child is developing appropriately. And if we find that they need additional support, we will go ahead and refer to HomeSafe, who's also actually presenting after us. So it's a nice tie-in. Next slide. The next program that I want to talk about is the Forward Leaps program. So in the continuum of services within Palm Beach County, you have early steps, birth to 3. You have Child Find 3 to 5. And those provide intensive developmental support. Forward Leaps is probably the least intensive program, meaning parents maybe need some education, some coaching. And so developmental specialists come along and promote positive parenting skills through modeling and interacting with their children. Next slide. We serve children birth to 5 who need additional support. We're able to receive those referrals when a child scores concern on an ASQ 3 or an ASQ SE. So essentially, when you're filling out those ASQs and you submit them to ELC, they then go to HomeSafe, and then HomeSafe evaluates them and sees if they need additional support. Next slide. It's a short-term program. The max amount of time is 6 months. We have bi-monthly sessions. We meet them wherever they want. So in home, at childcare centers, some of you have seen maybe some of our developmental specialists. We assess every 3 months to ensure that there are no additional concerns. And for the most part, most children graduate typically. We provide them some support and some tips and tricks to continue on ensuring that their child meets developmental milestones. If not, we send a referral back to HomeSafe for further evaluation. Next slide. So First Step to Success. First Step to Success has been around since 2009. It's one of the older programs here at the department. We serve children who have mild to moderate delays. And this is a long-term program, meaning that until they enter kindergarten, we can continue to serve them. So these are the children that you thought maybe were eligible for early steps or child find, but they didn't have an intensive need, and so they may have come to First Step to Success. Next slide. So in order to be eligible for services, you need to score a concern on an ASQ3 and SE2, and also on a second level assessment. So depending on where your child is, that could either be the BDI-3 screener or it could be a DAISY. But essentially those concerns this is kind of the distinction between Forward Leaps and First Step. First Step, you have to score on multiple assessments that you have a concern. And for Forward Leaps, you just have to score a concern for the ASQ. Every year, the program serves over 250 children and their families. Next slide. And we focus on promoting the parent-child relationship while supporting children in achieving an array of developmental milestones through modeling, play, and education to parents. So like I mentioned, it's a long-term program. Children can remain eligible in the program up until right before they enter kindergarten. Sessions take place every week, 45 minutes to an hour. We provide services at homes, child care centers, community, libraries, wherever the family wants to meet and feels comfortable. And interventions are focused on what was identified in their most recent evaluation that we completed. So we basically come up with an intervention plan on the skills and milestones that they need to meet in order to meet those milestones and be ready for kindergarten once they enter. We also ask a lot of support from teachers sometimes because a lot of them are in school. And so sometimes when we go to school, we have a lot of discussions with those teachers to ensure that those children are integrating in the classroom. If they have behavioral concerns, what are they? And how can we really support their integration into the classroom and make sure that they can be successful. Children are evaluated every 6 months and they have individualized plans that are created on those intervals as well. Next slide. So, like I mentioned, we can accept referrals all by themselves. I can answer any questions though. All our referrals really come through HomeSafe, which this is their referral line. I know Edgar's going to touch on this in a little bit, but I didn't know before that he was going to. Next slide. And this is a really confusing array of services in our community, but it really does show everything that we have in Palm Beach County. We have a lot of services that are underutilized at times. The ones in my program are circled in red, First Step to Success, and the Light Touch Forward Leaps. And really your ASQs that go through ELC, if they score concern, they get funneled through HomeSafe, and HomeSafe has access to all these programs. And so based on how they refer and based if parents accept, they refer onward. And last year we served 2,001 children throughout Palm Beach County. We had over 13,000 one-on-one interactions. And next slide. And that's the team. So if any faces look familiar, they might.
Thank you, Alexa. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
let's see if we have any questions. Did you have anything else?
Not me, no.
No.
I can go ahead and, how is first steps different than early steps? Okay, so early steps and child find are kind of the state level, state funded programs that support children who have a more significant developmental delay. First step to success is kind of like the gray area children. They need some support, but they don't qualify for those other state programs. And if they're with us and let's say they have regressions, because development is not just an upward trajectory always, there's a lot of ebbs and flows, we will go ahead and refer to those agencies as well. We have good partner relationships with them. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Any other questions for Alexis? All right. Thank you so much for presenting, Alexis. Really great info. What a great resource for our community. And it ties right into our next presenter, which is Edgar from HomeSafe.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. It's always good to be back. My name is Edgar. I'm the community liaison for HomeSafe. I'll be explaining the services that we help connect to in our referral process. So things that Miss Alexis touched on, I'll give the HomeSafe side of the equation. Next slide, please. So HomeSafe has been in the community since 1975, and we want to make sure that children are born healthy, they're safe from abuse and neglect, and they'll be ready for kindergarten by the time they get to that age. So these are the programs that we are able to accomplish those goals. We have the residential group home that is for children in the foster care system that have experienced acute trauma. We have housing for them and specialist therapy for them as well. Out of the foster care system, we have the independent living program. So we're able to provide affordable housing for those children and those teenagers as long as they're able to stay in school or have a job. Then we have the safety net program, which is immediate intervention and prevention services for victims of domestic violence. So we have counseling for the parents and the children in English and in Spanish. And what I'll be talking about today, which is the Healthy Beginning side. As Ms. Alexis pointed to, we are the exclusive entry agency to the Healthy Beginning system of care. So for families with children between 0 and 5, we're the first step to be able to connect families to these free and wonderful developmental services in Palm Beach County. Next slide, please. So these are some of the teams that parents may get in contact with here at HomeSafe. I'll briefly run through them just so you get a better picture of our organization. We have the hospital liaisons. So they're stationed at every maternity ward in Palm Beach County, and they conduct the Florida Universal Infant Screen. As these mothers are about to deliver, we make sure that they have support. And if there's anything that they need to make sure that the baby is well taken care of, we'll help connect them to those services then and there. We have the outreach educators who I work with very closely. They conduct the Ages and Stages Questionnaire 3 and the Ages and Stages Questionnaire SE, as well as they do community events like myself, and we try to get the word out about HomeSafe out into the community. We have the assessment team, so it's made up of developmental consultants. They are specialists, they're specialized in child development and family relationships. They're able to do more specialized assessments, and they're the ones that are able to make referrals to the programs under the Healthy Beginning system of care. And lastly, we have the system navigators. So the navigation team focuses on safe sleep. So they go around the county, make sure that parents have a safe place for the children to sleep, the children between 0 and 12 months. And if they don't have one, then we'll provide one for free, or we'll provide a pack and play. We also help with applying for Medicaid, food stamps, and finding a local pediatrician. Next slide, please. Okay, so I touched on the Healthy Beginning system of care. ELC is part of it. I'm sure a lot of you guys are aware of it. Just to briefly touch on it, it is a web of services and programs completely funded by the Children's Services Council. It's over 30 agencies and over 50 programs, and they have different purposes just to ensure that children get to have a great development, make sure that by the time they get to kindergarten, they have a great foundation and they're able to hit the ground running, if you will. Next slide, please. So We work with the Early Learning Coalition and the School Readiness Program. We have a great partnership over many, many years, and it's been getting better and better recently. So essentially, as the daycares conduct the Ages and Stages questionnaire, if a child scores concern, HomeSafe gets a referral for that child immediately, and we make contact to the parents and make sure that they are aware of us and the services that we can help connect them to. We make sure to let them know that these are free services, so we don't check insurance or any legal status or anything like that. Next slide, please. This is a wonderful roadmap that was recently updated by ELC. We like to give these out to the daycares. This just walks parents through the entire process from when they're able and they have the opportunity to do the ASQs all the way to when they're scored and they get the referral for HomeSafe, and we make the appointments to get further assessments if you need it. Next slide, please. So I touched on our partnership with ELC, but we want to be able to screen as many children as possible. For daycare, we'll do the screenings. The process is just a little bit different. Essentially, we'll just have to start a little bit from the beginning. We'll make an appointment with an outreach educator, and they'll do the ASQs with the parents at the home if they're comfortable with.
Uh-oh. Well, technical difficulties.
Hi, everybody.
see.
Sorry about
There we
that.
go.
Let me try to
Oh.
start that again. I think I got disconnected.
Okay.
Apologies.
No worries. We
sorry.
understand.
Okay. Let me go back.
If you could go back to the previous slide just for a second.
Okay. Let me know when I'm good. This one or keep going back?
Oh, this one's good.
Okay.
So this is a brief overview of the referral process. So on the yellow line is what private pay children or anyone that contacts our referral line directly, it's what their experience. So we'll make an appointment with an outreach educator. They'll do the ages and stages questionnaire with the parent. If the child scores concern, then we'll send them to what we call a second level assessment with a developmental consultant. That's when they'll analyze, both the family relationship, any sort of social support, and if the family qualifies, the developmental consultants will make a referral to the appropriate agency. And that blue square or rectangle, that's for ELC funded children. Once the daycares, once you guys do the ASQs, you essentially kind of skip some of the steps. So we're able to speed up that process and make sure that the children that benefit from those programs can get access to them as quickly as possible. Next slide, please. As far as the assessments that we do during the referral process, we'd like to break them down depending on what questionnaire they score concern in. So the top row is done by the hospital liaisons, as I mentioned a few slides back. If they need more support, then the hospital liaison will do the Edinburgh and the Child First Parent questionnaire, and then some of the programs that we work with. If the child scores concern in the ASQ3, we'll do the Battelle screener, the MSHAT, and the EOT evaluation by the developmental consultants. And some of the programs that we work with for Relief's First Steps to Success, as Ms. Alexis talked about earlier. And if they score concern in the ASQ or SC, we'll do the Parent Stress Index, the Child First questionnaire, and other assessments along those lines. And the programs on the right, Triple P and counseling services. These are not the only programs that we work with. As I mentioned, we have a variety, over 30 agencies and over 50 programs are at the disposal of the Healthy Beginning system of care. So the developmental consultant will give the parents multiple options as to programs that they qualify for. We'll explain it to them, and the parent can choose what program is most appropriate for their need at that time. We want to make sure that parents know that they are the ones making the decisions and that we're just supporting them through this. Next slide, please. So as I've been talking about this throughout this presentation, the benefit of going through HomeSafe directly instead of going to all these other programs directly is that we'll conduct the first few assessments at HomeSafe. We can do them at the house. We'll meet you at any sort of public space that the family is comfortable with. But it allows the process to be shortened. It allows families to receive those services quicker. And we're able to really support the family as a whole, make sure that any sort of support that the family has or any support that they need, we're able to provide them, and we'll do the best to approach it the best way possible for them. Next slide, please. So, in the theme of making sure that children are getting ready for kindergarten, we want to offer other ways for HomeSafe to be able to connect with parents. We don't want just parents to come to us. We also want to meet them where they're at. And some of the ways that we've done this before are with ASQ playdates and ASQ screening events. So ASQ playdates and screening events, I'll explain what they are in a little bit more detail. So playdates, what we do is we organize with the daycare. We reserve a space within the daycare, and outreach educators come and organize essentially like a workshop. We invite the parents and the child, obviously, and we walk them through different activities to boost their development, things that they can practice over time, things that help with communication, fine and gross motor skills, personal social development, problem solving. It allows the parent to really have a hands-on time and make sure that they're engaged and that they know how they can work on these activities after the play date. Whereas screening events, it's a little bit more one-on-one. Essentially, we'll organize a time where families can sign up to have the ASQs done at the daycare. So the outreach educators will come to the daycare and we'll do the ASQs with the parent present. It allows for the parent to really understand the process, to make sure that not only do they understand, but they give us the best answers possible, and we can get the best picture of the development as possible. And we're able to do referrals if they're needed. We recommend this to be done for private paid children, since ELC funded children, get the ASQs already done. We want to make sure that every child can be screened in Palm Beach County. Next slide, please. So just some pictures on the left, we have the play date. So that's kind of what it looks like. We set up different stations to work on different activities. And we really like this. These are very engaging. We love to have seeing the moms and the dads, working with the children is really special. Seeing how they connect and bond during that time. And on the right is, like I mentioned, it's a little bit more one-on-one. It's the screening, the educator with the parents. Next slide, please. All right, this is our referral form. So this is for childcare centers to be able to make referrals to HomeSafe on behalf of the parent. The easiest way will be for parents to call a referral line, but the childcare centers can also do this themselves on behalf of the parent. They just have to fill out some information, and we need to have parental consent at every step of the process, of course. And once you send this, if you can send us the most information you have about that child, it can give us the better picture and to know what assessments to do and what programs they may be they may qualify for. Next slide, please. All right, so that's about all I have for you today. That's my contact information. I'll drop my email in the chat. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We'd love to work with you.
Thank you, Edgar. Any questions for Edgar from HomeSafe or Alexis from the ARC? All right. Allison from TCM.
Everybody, I'm Allison Steinberg from TCM, Teacher Creative Materials. I'm going to go over a couple of different resources that we have and just go into a little bit of depth about a few. So next slide, please. Our vision is to create a world in which children love to learn, and we truly breathe that with everything we do. Next slide. So right here are just a few of our early childhood classroom resources. I'll go into a little bit of depth with each one, but this is an overview. At the top, we have Focus Phonics. Then we have our Readers Theater, Explore and Learn, which is our newest VPK. So whether you call it VPK or pre-K, it's that year before kindergarten, a full year curriculum. A resource called My Words and a resource called Building Connections. Next slide, please. We also have some family engagement and at-home learning resources. So at the top, you'll see these are probably our biggest sellers. These are our backpacks. They are intended for the 9 weeks over summer, or really even if you wanted to have them throughout the school year and just use them throughout the different breaks for the year. These are, as you can see, this is a sample of getting ready for pre-kindergarten. We have it starting at pre-kindergarten, going all the way up to 12th grade. Each backpack comes with a student guided workbook, which has all subject areas. They each get 4 books, so they can kind of start building their at-home library. And the parent engagement guide, which is a really great piece. It offers a lot of information, a lot of tips and tricks for parents, cool activities, and just things you can see at the bottom. I'm sure it's small, but it says top 10 things to know for the following school year. So it's like kind of like a really great benchmark guide for the parents. And it comes in Spanish and Spanish support. Next slide, please. We also have 2 imprint companies. One is called Free Spirit and one is called Shell. You'll see them throughout. Free Spirit has a lot of great readers that help with, I would like to say, the heart and the mind of our students. And a lot of our resources, again, come in Spanish or Spanish support. And we also have our TCM, Little Independent Readers. Next slide, please. So like I said, Explore and Learn is our newest resource. It's our full year VPK, the year before kindergarten curriculum program. And I hope I'm not going too fast. Next slide, please. So as we know, 4-year-olds, they are just interested in everything. They love to learn and they love to move. So we realize that these are the main areas we need to focus on. So what are 4-year-olds interested in and what do they need? They need literacy, science and social studies, creative exploration, social development, physical development, music and movement, fine motor, and mathematics. So our program encompasses everything. Next slide, please. The way that the curriculum program is broken up throughout the year, it's 8 big idea themes. And as you can see, we really started out with who I am. So we start with that student, and each theme kind of grows bigger and bigger into the world. Who I am, how does my body work, who cares for me? And then, where do I grow and learn? And it kind of expands. So it starts with them and it goes all the way to like the planet and the whole world. Each theme is broken up into 2 units, and then each unit is 2 weeks. So this entire program lasts for 32 weeks, which is pretty much the entire school year. Next slide, please. The series components and most of TCM's curriculum pieces like this that are meant for the classroom are pretty much a simple breakdown of teacher's guide, student guided workbooks, vocabulary cards, management guide, planning guide. Each one is a little bit different, but they kind of follow the same protocol. In Explore and Learn, there's 8 teacher's guides that go along with those 8 big themes. And I think I was a teacher in my previous life. And so I think it's kind of nice as a teacher with that each new guide, you get to like put the old one back, or, you kind of feel like you're moving through the year and it kind of keeps you paced out. And the same for the students. I know I taught in childcare centers and kindergarten. Someone's going to spill on their book and someone's going to, write their name and they don't like it. And at least, in just a few weeks, you're going to get a brand new book and start all over. So that's kind of exciting. But again, it comes with the 8 teacher's guide, the 48 read aloud books, 96 vocabulary concept cards, Subitizing math cards, which again, I was early childhood and child development and childcare for college. And I never heard the word subitizing until I moved and started with TCM. So subitizing, if you don't know, it's really the ability for students to look at something that's a number and know. So if they look at like 3 buttons, they know that's 3. Or when you say, how old are you? And they say, this many. Instead of having to count, they would know that this is just 3. So that's the subitizing cards. And then again, the 8 student activity books. Next slide, please. We have lots of great engaging text that comes within the series. We get 3 copies of each of our traditional books, our fiction books, and our wordless nonfiction books. We really are proud of our wordless nonfiction books. It gives the students a huge opportunity to work on vocabulary and really looking at the pictures in the book and kind of coming up with their own stories and creating the whole storyline for themselves and really expanding the vocabulary. Next slide, please. We have social development stories. I don't know if this would play, but I'm not going to even try it. So that's Cam E. Chameleon. She's our mascot for the whole series. And we follow her through lots of different adventures of social situations and how she copes with them and how she learns how to handle different situations, which is a really great opportunity for the students to see themselves within Cami. Next slide, please. I know for the teachers, this is kind of like the aha moment. This is our 10-day overview. There's 14 learning blocks throughout the day, and then this would be, one of those the 2-week program. This is the first half of it. So this is just a really great way to organize your day. It takes a lot of the pressure off the teachers with the planning. It gives you a really great breakdown of the entire day, what you're doing for each of the 14 different learning blocks and each day. And it's just a wonderful pacing guide. Next slide, please. And so what we did, especially with the new summer bridge mandate, we know that a lot of people, schools, different organizations are kind of scrambling. What am I going to do to fulfill this mandate of 100 hours? So we created Jump into Kindergarten, which fulfills all the requirements that you need for the summer bridge mandate. So if you are looking to have that at your facility, or if you are looking for something to fill that need, Jump into Kindergarten is a great fit. It's really the kind of the beginning of our Explore and Learn program, but slightly different. And it fulfills that requirement for the 100 hours. Next slide. Focus Phonics is another one of our resources. This is a great encompassing kit to just help with phonics, phonemic awareness, building vocabulary, helping with fluency and comprehension. This is like an overview of everything that comes in the kit, but the next slide, I think, goes into a little bit more detail. So next slide, please. So yes, again, you have your instructional routine cards, a teacher's guide, an assessment guide, a management guide, sound wall cards, phonics concept cards, your student guided practice book, decodable books. You get 6 copies of each, so you can do those small group lessons. We have lots of great digital resources, as well as our content cloud for the teachers. So if you were going to go home and work on some lesson planning over the weekend and you realize you forgot one of the books, no fear, you just go to the content cloud. Everything that you need is there, and you can see every one of our resources. And then again, those punch out letter cards. Next slide. Building connections is what we like to say. It's kind of for the heart and soul and mind for our students. So these are really great kits, and they are wonderful for read alouds for the teachers. You get 12 of these books, teacher's guided book, and again, some of those virtual resources as well, where there's some activities for the students to follow along. And if you can see some of the titles, like Have Courage, I Can Play It Safe, Waiting is Not Forever, really great concepts for our students. Next slide, please. And this is just a little bit of the activity charts for some of those books. So this is a book called Zach Hangs in There, and it gives a little summary, some self-awareness, relationship skills, self-management, just really great things that we know are lacking in our world today. And wouldn't it be great to kind of bring that back to our youngest students? Next slide, please. Building Fluency Through Reader's Theater. This is a wonderful resource for the little ones. We have a couple of different topics. We have nursery rhymes. We have American tall tales and legends and fairy tales. We know how much kids love to do plays and act and get their moment to shine. And so this is a great way to really help with reading and fluency in a way that they really enjoy it. So again, this is for pre-K through 8th grade. The little ones have those themed out topics, and then the other grades are just like 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, and also available in Spanish. Next slide, please. My Words. These are great for our beginning readers. Really simple, easy books, lots of repetition. We know that the kids are like, I can do it myself, so this is a great way for them to read that book by themselves, and they can really work on that fluency and reading comprehension, building those skills, those top 100 words that we know are key for reading. Next slide, please. And this is a little bit more about My Words. So it gives you an example, like, they are in the dirt, they are in the snow. It's just great for the students, gives them that confidence to feel like they're really ready to start reading. Next slide. As you can see at the top, I mentioned we have 2 imprint companies, Free Spirit and Shell Education. If you see at the top left, these are our Shell Education books. We have hundreds of different Shell Education books. This happens to be one of our resources called 180 Days. We have a few different topics for pre-kindergarten, and as they get older, we have more and more topics. So you can see there's reading and math. As the kids get older, we have science, social studies, STEAM, social emotional, word roots, word families. So just a wonderful resource, whether it's at home or in school. 180 days, it helps you out through the whole year. Next slide, please. And then here's Free Spirit and our readers. I think this might be a duplicate page. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. But just lots of great readers, lots of great Free Spirit, beautiful titles, beautiful pictures, beautiful books. And almost all of our resources are available in Spanish, English, or Spanish support. Next slide, please. So this is one of our best-selling series. It's our board books, but they're also available in paperback. Screen Time is Not Forever. I'm sure many of you have heard Hands Are Not for Hitting. That is us. That's Free Spirit. I think we have over 1 million copies sold. So these are wonderful books. And again, tons of different titles for all, noses are not for picking, all the key things that little ones do. Next slide, please. Another one of our series for our toddlers, great concepts, nap time, listening time, manners time, bye-bye time, lots of things that can sometimes be difficult for those little ones. And when they see it in the book and they watch the character in the book do it, it makes them feel more comfortable and confident. Next slide, please. We have some great social emotional skill building as well. So if you can see some of these titles like Be Polite and Kind and Be Careful and Stay Safe, Join in and Play, again, really giving these children an opportunity to see it in the character so they feel more comfortable to do it in their real life. Next slide, please. So again, back to some of our Shell resources. These are our books for professional learning. We also have some for parents as well, but lots of great resources for your classroom teachers, for your parents. And again, some of our Shell books are intended for the students as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so thank you so much. I hope I didn't talk too much. I know I had a lot. I just want to share, this is a picture of me circa 2001 at the University of Pittsburgh at my first child care center with a little boy who ironically looks kind of like my son did when he was a baby. But that's my information. I just want to let you know that with TCM, I know some of the bigger companies have like minimum orders. If you are like, I like that one book, we are happy to work with you. So there's no minimum orders. Whatever you need, I'm here for you. Feel free to call me or email me. Thanks.
Oh, no, thank you. We're doing so good on time. I did have one question come in. She was asking about an email, email with this information. So I don't know if she was looking for everything or just from you, Allison. So Luna, if you want to jot down Allison's email, we'll send out the presentation so that you have it. But this is Allison's direct contact information, so you can get some info from TCM. Thank you so much. So many wonderful things. Lots of nice things everybody's saying. So thank you for presenting.
Thank you.
Beautiful materials available to our childcare community. Wonderful. All right. If anybody doesn't have any other questions on that, we'll roll right into Palm Beach State, and we're doing good. No rush. Nobody has to feel like we were a little pressed for time in the beginning, but things are working out pretty good for us. So no rush at all. But if you want to start out, is Ruth, you're going to do for Palm Beach State College?
Yes.
Or we start? Yes. Wonderful. Thank you. Nice to see you.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
Gina. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Ruth Florial. I'm the Director of Early Childhood and K-12 programs here at Palm Beach State. You're going to hear from me and also from the Institute of Excellence. Debbie Strange is here. Hey, Deborah. So we can go to the next slide. I am grateful to be able to share some information with you about our programs, but I wanted to start off by talking about school readiness and kindergarten readiness. Speaking of screen time is not forever, as I thought about this, I thought about what would be a good topic for me as a parent that I struggle with and as an educator, and screen time is what I wanted to share before we talk about our service, that our programs here. So there was a study done in South Australia, and I wanted to share this interesting information with you. I'm going to share one that's international and one that's national. And this is what they found in South Australia. Over 100 preschool directors participated in the study, and they found that overuse of screen time in lieu of play. And I know Heather's here. We've been talking about it's okay to play in VPK. So they found that screen time has negatively impacted children's development. Just as we're talking about Home Safe and all the different screeners, the ASQ, this is pretty much validating that all of these things are important for school readiness, because school readiness, as they defined it in this study, is all about the ability of a child to make successful transition from preschool into formal school, or here we would say kindergarten. So kindergarten readiness. And they were finding that 1 out of 4 South Australian children are not ready for school. So in sharing this information, I just wanted to encourage us as educators, as providers, to remind the parents or find ways to encourage parents. All the activities that we talked about today, the books, these amazing resources. We even have some of those books, Allison, here at Palm Beach State. We have some of those books. Um, we can go ahead and go to the next slide. So this one was the one I just shared was from Southern Australia, but there was another organization. It's called Your Therapy Source, and they did a survey with over 500 participants here in the United States. This included physical therapists, occupational therapists, parents, teachers, counselors, speech pathologists, you name it. And they pretty much found the same thing. And I wanted to ask the audience, how much time do you think infants are spending on screens? Maybe you could put it in the chat. Just infants, and just think about babies. The next one I was gonna ask you, none? Okay, good, Alejandra. I agree. I hope. Um, Ooh, okay. I see a few of the responses, and now I'm going to ask you, what about toddlers? How much time do we think toddlers are spending on screens, whether that means they're watching TV, they're watching videos, or different things like that? And the last thing is preschoolers. So on the next slide, I'll need you to click for me a little bit. So this is what they found. 29% of babies watch an average of 90 minutes, and 23% have televisions in their bedrooms. And when we think of babies, we're like, they eat, they sleep, and they don't have time for anything else. But this is what they're finding, that 64% of babies and toddlers watch an average of 2 hours. Someone said 2 hours, I don't remember who it was. 36% of 1 to 2 year olds have televisions in their bedroom. So we're not telling you what to do. I'm just sharing the information. I am a parent. I struggle with this too, but I just wanted to put it out there. So 2 to 5 year olds interact with screens. This was pretty alarming, 2.7 to 7 hours per day. And when we think about the children that are not in preschool settings and they're going straight into kindergarten, this might be true. And what we're finding in both of the studies, it's having a negative impact on children, whether it's physical, fine motor, gross motor, just in every area, every aspect. Um, we can go to the next slide. what was the most surprising for me, and I put the source here, this one from your therapy source was in 2019. This was pre-COVID. So I can't even imagine what the numbers are post-COVID or what the statistics are. I was an assessor. I'm still certified as a class assessor. And one of the things I noticed, not in Palm Beach County, but in another county, even